Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. We've got a great show with Charles and Helen Beatty. Charles is the CEO of Mississippi Food Network, ably supported by his wife Helen. They are both doctorate degree holders. Helen went to Mississippi State University and Tougaloo. Charles went to Michigan State University. They've been married 26 years. Charles was a former president of Piney Woods High School College and now is leading the Mississippi Food Network that takes care of 150,000 hungry Mississippians. Yes, 150,000 hungry Mississippians every month. Mississippi is officially the hungriest state in the nation, and he's leading the charge in 56 counties to bring food to these people. He says for every dollar you give him, he can put food on the table for 6 individuals. We are supporting him. We want you to support him, but they have a great story to tell. You will love to hear their story. God bless you. Jesus is Lord. Thank you. Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. Thank you for joining us. Don't touch that dial. We have Dr. Charles and Helen Beatty, two exemplary individuals who have walked the talk, who have done a lot to help the community they live in. From some of the poorest neighborhoods in the world, they've risen to be leaders in the faith-based community. Charles is the CEO of the Mississippi Food Network. He had his bachelor's in advertising and his master's in urban counseling and his PhD in counselor education from Michigan State University. Helen also has her doctorate and she's worked in psychology and different HR responsibilities from Mississippi State University and other Tougaloo and other colleges. But we're going to be talking with them today about their faith. Last show, Charles was saying that he and Helen are prayer warriors, and I was like, okay, let's talk a bit about that. Tell us about how your faith has shaped your walk. What do you mean by you and Helen are prayer warriors? I mean, you met 28 years ago on the set of Mississippi Women's University, and the rest is history, as they say. But tell us a bit about your faith journey, because this is a Christian TV station. A lot of my viewers are Christians, and we know that people struggle in their faith. So we want to learn a bit from you, who has been in the faith for 20, 30, maybe 40 years, and tell us some of your challenges and how God has helped you through it all.
Well, Helen is my partner, and I love my wife. We've been married for 26 years. We share a lot of common interests. I'm a coin collector. She and I are both into antiquing. We used to get up just about every Saturday morning going out looking for antiques, and then the house got crowded. So we're not doing so much of that
The
anymore.
garage sale thing.
There you go.
Wow.
That's what it's
Estate
about.
sale.
We both love traveling. We've been blessed by God to be able to go to places that a lot of people dream about. Hong Kong, Panama, South Korea, Senegal, France,
South
Spain.
Africa. Yeah.
Where else have we
Italy.
been? Alaska 5 or 6 times.
Oh, wow.
Hawaii a couple of times.
Cuba.
So
Yeah.
we love
Cuba.
traveling
Yeah.
and meeting other people and other places. But our faith carries us. We're both, as you mentioned earlier, prayer warriors. Faith without work is dead,
Right.
and we understand that completely. We pray every morning before we go to work. Prayer is our refuge. So that's basically it in terms of how we think about and deal with our faith life.
But did you have like a road to Damascus experience, like Paul did, when Jesus appeared to him and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he repented, and that such a dramatic conversion. How was your life conversion experience?
I've had a number of those.
Okay.
I don't even know where to start. We were talking about earlier when I was working at the Pineywood School. One night I dreamed that I was this huge human being walking across the earth. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if I was being called to the ministry. I wasn't called to preach or anything like that. But in terms of the work that I've done over the years, they've been ministries. The ministry at Piney Woods, it was a Christian-oriented school, and we had church every Sunday. I was often called to get up to
Sure.
kind of sort of preach to the youngsters, and then I was there for 20 years, and now I'm at Mississippi Food Network. It's not a religious organization of any kind, but we pray before we have any meetings. We do a lot of praying there. We have some 430 agencies that we distribute food through. Most of them are church affiliated. It's not a church, but it's a ministry for us.
Right, right. And I'm sure you partner with churches in fundraising. I'm sure
Absolutely.
you probably go through 200 churches. And I mean, since you've been at Mississippi Food Network, I'm sure you can count the number of churches you've been to raise funds and awareness.
Well, I did most of that when I was at
Piney
Piney
Woods.
Woods in terms of going to the churches all over the country.
Oh, wow.
And in other countries, as a matter of fact. But right now, in terms of the church affiliations, most of our pantries, again, I think I mentioned we have some 430 agencies throughout our
Wow.
service area, which is 56 counties. But most of them are church affiliated. And I've had
Okay.
opportunity to visit a number of those
Okay, that's
and speak with
awesome.
the folks who run those pantries.
I think I know some churches that have pantries. I'm trying to remember. We attended a church in this town, West Monroe, that had a food pantry, but my church in Jackson doesn't have one right now. So, but I'm sure there are lots of churches that I know probably that have food pantries. I just don't
Well,
know.
there's a food bank not too far from here. I don't remember exactly. So they would have
Some
pantries
access to
that they distribute the food through,
Yeah.
just like we do. But in the Jackson, Mississippi area, in Hinds County, there are at least 25 or 30 pantries
Pantries.
that we distribute food.
And a
through.
lot of them are affiliated with churches.
Most of them are.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. So tell us of your conversion experience. I mean, I know you were raised in the home of faith. I know your dad and mom went to church regularly, but did you ever have to, have your own personal encounter with Jesus as an individual? So this is for Dr. Helen.
Okay, yes. You're right. I grew up in a home where it was expected. You were a part of Sunday school, you were a part of Bible study, as well as being active in the church. I sang in the choir, actually, and along with my brother Clyde was a musician there.
I know he's-
Yeah, so but I think about when you start to talk about the Damascus experience, I think it was probably a little bit later in life with me at the time that when my parents both transitioned roughly 10 days apart, and I was a business owner in the Jackson area at that time, and thank God that I had a team that I was able to leave my business in their care and trust to just kind of take the reins, because I went home and became the caretaker for my parents, and I remember just dreaming that my dad was telling me that you're gonna have to take the reins now, and I'm like, I woke up but it was just so prolific and vivid for me. But in terms of, I think, just earth shattering, no, but just those pearls of wisdom that the Lord has given to you to lead, to step up, knowing when to step in to help others, that everything you do in life is not going to something is not going to always come back to you. A lot of times the people that you bless aren't the people that's coming back to bless you.
right.
But as I said, grew up in a home where my parents felt that it was a clarion call for us to give back to the community, to share with others what we had, and just been a part of that walk of faith. As I mentioned, my brother Clyde was on your.
Right.
We are through the pandemic. We became members of his church.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Clarksdale,
Praise God.
Mississippi.
So we didn't talk about your home upbringing. So did you have a faith-based home when you grew up, Charles?
Well,
And where did you grow up, by the way?
I was born in Georgia.
Okay.
raised in what we refer to as the other water capital of the world, Flint, Michigan.
Oh.
And it was expected that we go to church every Sunday. I didn't sing in the choir.
Okay.
I can't carry a tune, but I went religiously because that's what was expected. Flint, Michigan is where I was raised.
With who were you raised with? Siblings, mom, dad,
I,
two-parent
I come
home?
from a nuclear family, mother,
Okay.
father, two sisters. I had a younger brother. He died in infancy. He must have been 4 or 5 years old. We were in Georgia at the time.
Okay.
And my three sisters and I grew up together.
Wow.
One of them, my oldest sister, is now deceased. The youngest sister is still in Flint. She's a grandmother. Well, she's a great-grandmother
Great
now.
grandmother.
Oh,
Great-grandmother. And she's enjoying her youngsters and her great-grands and great-grands. But you just jogged my memory a little bit ago. I mentioned earlier that we're a traveling couple. We were in South Korea, talking about that Damascus experience, and ended up going to church one Sunday. And I remember sitting in the back, and the minister was asking people to come up, and he was putting his hands on them, and they were doing interesting things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, that can't be real. And all of a sudden, I just got this tingling all over me. I had to get up.
Oh,
He
wow.
touched me, and I went down.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I've never
Never
experienced
experienced
anything.
that.
I had never experienced anything like that before
Oh,
or
wow.
since. But that made me understand God is real.
God is
yeah.
real,
And He
yeah.
will talk to you. He will touch
Absolutely.
you. He will come out.
So you've done three things that I think are extremely important. You've raised a generation at Pinewood School, and now you're feeding the poor at Mississippi Food Network. I mean, a lot of Christians just go to church on Sunday, but they don't think of the next generation, and they don't think of helping their community. And I want you to talk to that, because as a Christian, I don't think we should just be limited to the four walls of a church.
Absolutely.
Our Christianity has to shape our community, shape our environment, shape our family. I mean, if you can't impact the next generation,
I've,
know.
I've had two once-in-a-lifetime jobs. Again, the first one was at Pineywood. And I still get calls from the youngsters that I was able to minister to
wow.
during that time. I'm thinking about our friend in South Africa, Robert.
Robert Chandu.
Robert Chandu from South Africa calls me up here.
He came from
periodically.
South Africa to
He
Pinewood?
came all the way from South. Well, there were two youngsters from South Africa, Robert Chandu and Basil Makoba,
Wow.
as a matter of fact. Robert, a fine young man, is now a minister, as a matter of fact, in South Africa. Helen and I had the opportunity to go visit, and I think they had just gotten married.
Yes.
Wow.
And we gave them our hotel room
Oh,
as we
wow.
were leaving.
As a gift. We made a wedding gift to them and extended the stay.
They ended up having a son,
Oh, wow.
and they named that first son
Charles.
after me. Charles Yobanga
Oh,
Chandu.
wow. Did he go back after high school, or he stayed and did college in America?
He did college in America,
Wow.
and he's back in South Africa now. He's an engineer
Oh,
at
wow.
Whitbank, I think is where.
Yeah, Whitbank at the energy of the power station there.
Nice.
Actually received his master's, I think. He started out at Jackson State University.
Okay.
And left there and received his I think it was the University of Minnesota, if I'm not
Minnesota.
mistaken,
Wow.
in engineering. So yeah, he's an electrical
So this was
engineer.
this was a predominantly African American school.
Yes.
Okay, just trying to, and then some Africans came, and wow, that's empowering. I've seen the school on the highway.
Yeah, you don't go down 49
Yeah.
on the left hand
So
side.
that's the school.
That's
That's it.
That's a large expanse of land,
2,000 acres, as a matter of fact.
and it's a boarding
It's a
school.
boarding school.
Only boys. Oh,
No.
boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
Wow. Wow.
And I can tell that story over and over again in terms of the youngsters out there. Our friend Vicky, she's almost like a daughter to us. Vicky's mother worked for me when I was at Pineywood. She transitioned, and Vicky ended up raising her younger sister. She is now has her PhD in nursing, and we talk to her almost daily. She's
Wow.
still in Jackson, and just youngsters all over the country and in different parts of the world. The Dilemos brothers in Angola. They
The country, not the prison.
not
Okay. The
not,
country. Yeah, you have to say
not
that.
not the prison. And I remember going to New York on a fundraising trip one time. Ended up at a hotel that was run by one of our former students.
Wow.
And I remember, I can't remember her name right now, but I remember that we had an online course in Japanese, and she learned how to speak Japanese. And just all kinds of stories with the
Wow.
what was my legacy, I guess it is, in terms of
Right.
the youngsters who came through.
20 years. That's powerful. And a lot of them went to Tougaloo, Jackson State, or even outside the state of Mississippi.
Princeton,
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Harvard.
Oh,
As a
wow.
matter of fact, the young man who is the president of the school right now went to Harvard and received a law degree.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
In fact, Vicky's sister received her PhD in African American Studies, I believe, from Columbia.
Columbia.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And
So
now,
they went to the historically black schools,
Mhm.
and they went to some of the
some of
other
the Ivy
Yeah,
League
the
schools.
Ivy League schools.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness. So you grew up in Flint. Flint is famous for the water
crisis.
crisis, the lead in the water
Exactly.
Correct.
that poisoned children. But it's also famous. I mean, well, Michigan State is famous for Magic Johnson too. So
There you go.
different things, different strokes. But obviously, you didn't grow up in that era of the contaminated water. But did you meet Magic Johnson growing up?
Well, actually, when I was at Michigan State, he was playing high school ball,
Oh,
and we met Magic. Was it his grandfather?
Well, we actually met Magic's mother.
Mother, yeah.
Would come. One of the employees at Piney Woods that worked in the finance office. She and Magic's mom attended church together. So their two sons came to Piney Woods. The family moved down, and Magic's mom would visit Piney Woods to see them. And they actually honored his grandfather, was a janitor and was retiring from Itawamba, I believe it's Itawamba Community College.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And Magic came down as a keynote speaker for his granddad's. It was honorary ceremony,
Wow.
and that family, they had two sons. One was a musician, and the other one was he had a melodious voice. And I can remember us sitting at the table because it was like a dinner where he was speaking. We were all sitting together, and Magic was just in tears because the
The two
little Ishmael
kids.
sang
Oh,
so
wow.
always one more time. It's so glad we're glad to come together one more time. Yeah, so yeah.
That's amazing. I'll love to. I'll go back and read up the history of Piney Woods, but nobody talks about boarding school in 21st century.
Correct.
Nobody does boarding schools anymore, so it's rare to hear of a boarding school in Mississippi.
Exactly.
That's I didn't think we had one, but
Well,
thanks.
at the turn of the last century, there were about 100 historically black boarding schools. Now, I think there are about four left.
Left.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
I think in terms of the legacy of Piney Woods, just to share this tidbit, Kathy Hughes, who's a TV mogul, who owned TV One, Radio One.
in Mississippi.
Well, she's out of Baltimore, but
Okay.
TV One is nationally known.
Right.
Was a student at Piney Woods, so we knew her.
Oh.
But her grandfather found Piney Woods. Yeah,
Oh.
Lawrence Jones. Yeah,
And her name is
Kathy Hughes.
Kathy Hughes.
Yeah, she's
Google
probably
that.
Google her. She's
Did
the
she
other.
go to Tougaloo?
No,
'cause I know
she's
you
a
went to
Howardite.
Tougaloo.
Yeah, she's went to
Okay.
Howard.
Oh,
Was
wow.
from that Baltimore D.C. area, but she's probably one of your other billionaires. Is what I'm getting.
Really?
At now, yes.
I'm impressed.
Yeah,
I'm really.
she's
And I
quite
told you that
impressive.
if you give, God gives back
Oh,
to you.
yeah.
So her
Exponentially.
father maybe gave that school as a
grandfather.
legacy, a
Mhm,
grandfather,
mhm.
and it's still reaping rewards in her life.
Absolutely.
You know.
Since 1909.
Wow. And let's talk about, Jesus said in Matthew 25, he was talking about when you visited me in prison, when you gave food to me, when you came to the prison. He said, you did this to me. And the people he showed up and he asked that question, they said, but when did we do this to you? And Jesus said, when you did this to the least of
At least,
this,
yeah.
that you did this to
also
me.
unto me.
You know. And then the contrary was the people who came and said, I was in prison, you didn't visit me. I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was in the hospital, nobody came to see me. And they said, well, when did you say we did this? And they said, when you did not do this to the least of this. So I think what you're doing at Mississippi Food Network is an extension of Jesus' hands and feet. You are the hands that feed. You're the caring mouth that tells people there's hope. And I want you to just talk about how we as the church can epitomize that part of the gospel. We've talked about encouraging and mentoring the younger generation, but we want to talk about how can Christians, from your viewpoint, go outside the four walls of the church and be the hands and feet to visit the poor, visit the sick, visit the prison, feed the poor. Are we doing enough as the church? Or are we letting maybe I mean, what can we do as a church to to save this 600,000 hungry, not so secure Mississippians going to bed every day?
Well, Jesus said the poor will be with you always.
That's true.
And again, Mississippi is the hungriest state in the nation and one of the, if not the number one or number two, poorest states in the nation. One of the things that we have a lot of people coming in to help us out with is we have Volunteer Saturday.
Okay.
Every second Saturday of the month, from September through May, from 9 to 12, we'll have folks from all walks of life coming in to pack up the food that we distribute to the poor. We have a program, CSFP, Commodity Supplemental Food Program, that we distribute about 13 or 14,000 boxes of food to the senior citizens in the service area, and we'll have church groups, Boy Scout groups, motorcycle clubs, people from all walks of life who will come in to pack up that food for us. As a matter of fact, last week one of our neighbors, Michelle and her group from UMMC, the medical school, brought
Michelle
40.
Hall.
Rugnick, Dr. the anesthesiologist
Okay.
division.
They brought 40 people out. They packed up 32,000 pounds of food
Wow.
to send out to the senior citizens. A couple of months before that, about 8 or 9 members of our trustees brought their siblings and husbands and wives, and they packed up about 20,000 pounds of food to distribute. So those are the kinds of things that people do in terms of volunteering their time.
Awesome.
They can provide help through the donation of funds,
Financial
or they can come out and
And
donate their
support.
time
time.
to help pack up the food to get it to those who need it.
Jackson has a lot of bad press. I don't know if you know that. Crime, rape, presidents of universities quitting. So this is a good news from Jackson, but people are asking, is this warehouse safe? I mean, have you ever had a break-in? Have you ever had people steal from the warehouse or hold you up at midnight? I mean, just curious, because there's so much talk about Jackson and the crime rate that some of my, they want to volunteer, but they're like, okay, is it safe to come out there?
We don't work at night.
Okay.
We have security all over the place, 24 hours a day. In the 9 years that I've been there, we had a fella climb the fence in the back and take a battery out of one of our trucks. But we've not had any break-ins. It's a safe area in that regard. Haven't had any problem.
Wow. And you want to talk about the board. I know you work with the board. So are they just giving their time? Are they paid? Are they...
They're certainly not paid.
Okay.
But they contribute to the school. As a matter of fact, last year they must have contributed about $30,000 or $40,000 in terms of their personal funds. And they work at different corporations or own businesses, and they provided
So these are
donations.
volunteers.
Well, they've provided donations in that regard and volunteers from their companies and organizations, and they've come to volunteer themselves. We have a wonderful board in that regard.
How many staff do you have as a?
We have about, well, we have 38 people working full time. We're grateful to the state of Mississippi because they provide with us incarcerated laborers.
Okay.
And they,
Prisoners, right.
we can't pay them, but we feed them and they like
Okay.
the food that we provide for them. So they come to volunteer with us every day. We have about a $7 million budget, and I can give you an example of why we need the support that we need. There's a food bank in Chicago, Cook County, responsible for trying to get food to some 600,000 people. They have about a 34, $35 million budget, a couple of hundred people working for them, a couple hundred trucks. We have a $7 million budget. We have 38 people. We have about 8 vehicles trying to get food to the 600,000 people in the state of Mississippi who need it.
Wow.
So that just, you can
Shows
do the
you
math on
different,
that.
right.
And that gives a good indication of why we need all the help that we
You're
get.
using the money to. You don't have a bloated workforce. You have a lean workforce, but you're doing as much as you can with what you have.
Exactly. It's like a beehive around
Right. The money is going straight to the people who need it.
there. Exactly.
If they give that money, yeah. And I know there are millionaires watching. I know there's at least 10 billionaires, I think, in the state of Mississippi. And they're all watching. Some of them live in the northeast Louisiana area. And I'm sure some of you are watching this show and you want to know, how can I support the Mississippi Food Network? Just go to the website. You'll see Charles' picture there on the website. You can verify that it's authentic. The USDA is their major sponsor. Your gifts are tax deductible, and you can support the Mississippi Food Network. You can give $1, you can give $1 billion. Just give whatever you can. Every dollar you give feeds 6 people per dollar. That is a game changer. You're saving 6 lives who may go to bed hungry. You're making a difference in a home. Can you imagine a mother, husband, and 4 kids? You're making a major difference. So please look at that website. We, as doctors in Mississippi, are supporting them with $1,000, and we want you to join us. We want you to partner. As a Christian minister in this community, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that these people walk the talk. They put their money where their mouth is. They also support the Mississippi
Amen.
Food Network
Amen.
with their private time and their private business. So if you want to do something in the hungriest state in the country, don't look any further. Look at Charles and look at Helen Beatty, and they are part of the Mississippi Food Network that are making a big difference. Join them, and I know you will not regret it. So this is Dr. Toby, looking forward to seeing you at our Holy Ghost Night, last Friday of every month at the Assembly, Junior High, 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. Jesus is Lord. God bless you.
You're going to change? Yeah.